What's going on, beautiful people?
What's going on?
Nick and Zach here.
We are here.
Smoke, Bake, Sear podcast.
Episode.
Who knows?
It's so
I
many
stopped
we
counting.
can't even count.
Thousands. We've
Yep.
been in the thousands. We've
Yep.
been doing this for a while.
That is correct.
Hey, so this is the Hasty Bake podcast. We talk about all things Hasty Bake,
All things.
whether it's grills, whether it's recipes, whether it's events, whether it's anything that has to do with your favorite cooking device.
We're gonna talk
Cooker.
about
We're
it.
going to talk about it. Grill, smokers,
Yep.
everything. We're obsessed with it. We get paid to do it, but that's beside the point.
Right.
We would do it anyway, honestly. We would.
Yeah.
We would.
It's fair.
Yeah. Bribe us with beer.
Yep.
Hey, so Scratch and Dent sale just finished.
Yes.
Assuming it's a wild success.
Yes.
But here's the deal. We have a lot. This is the biggest onboarding season of the year for Hasty Bake owners, for first-time Hasty Bake owners.
100%.
We have a lot of people that come and they'll upgrade, they'll replace, they'll whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the issue is we make a grill that lasts 20, 30, 40, 50 years.
Right.
You don't see a lot of people just buying a new grill every couple of years, which is the biggest difference between, in my mind, Hasty Bake and one of those big budget box store grills. Low budget, big box store grills.
But we will, just so we're clear, because I don't want anybody to get the wrong idea,
Yeah.
we will absolutely
we'll take your money.
sell you a grill
100%.
every 2 years,
I would
every
hope,
year.
Yeah, I would hope we would.
I'm happy to do it. I just felt like I
Make
should.
sure we're real clear on
Yep.
that, right?
Yep.
But here's the deal: is by and large, we don't see a lot of people buying a bunch of new grills.
Right.
We have first-time owners, and we have people doing upgrades, and we take pride in the fact that our grills do last that long. And we try to, make some fun accessories and stuff like that. We want to keep you guys around. Seasonings,
Right.
We got some fun new developments coming up on seasonings and sauces pretty soon. That don't tell, but you're the first to
Yep.
hear it. Rub and spice may not be the only spice for a while.
That's right.
I'm excited about that. Off topic. So we're onboarding a bunch of new folks, and there's a million questions that come up when you buy a new Hasty Bake grill and you're unfamiliar with it. So
Right.
I'm going to tell you guys right now, if you are listening to us and you're a longtime Hasty Baker and you've got it down and you don't need any new pointers or whatever, I would love for you to listen to this episode
For sure.
till the end. Do
Yeah.
it if you. But this is going to be a lot of advice for new folks. So
Right.
if you're bored, don't feel bad. We won't hate on you.
Yeah. If you're bored, it's the content and not us, right?
No, we're never boring at all. We're very, very exciting.
Yep.
That's why they pay us the big bucks.
That is
They said, I want you to
correct.
be exciting. Here's a paycheck.
Yep.
That's not true. All right. So here's how I want to position this. Guy's a new time owner, walks in. He's like, hey, man, I just bought my first Hasty Bake grill.
Yeah.
I got some questions for you. That's how we're going to position this today. So if you are new or you want to stick around and listen to this, here's how we go. The first question we normally get, one of the first questions we normally get is, what kind of charcoal do I use?
Or even before that, and it's something that I've been getting asked more and more of the last few months, and I don't know if it started really around the time that we launched the Roughneck, so like last December, but
Right.
we've been getting a lot of questions about, hey, can I burn, like mini splits or full splits in our grills?
Yeah.
And the answer to that is please do not.
So I mean, you can.
You can
It's a metal
set it on
box that holds
fire.
fire. You can. So that's a very good question because you're
Yes.
right. We do get that a lot.
Yeah.
And I think let's just answer that right now. I'll answer to the best of my ability, and then you weigh
Yeah.
in. How's that sound?
Yeah.
Burning split logs is by nature a bit inefficient and a bit unpredictable. And I'm telling you this as like a big steel trailer smoker offset cooker guy. Like
Yeah.
I enjoy doing offset cookers. I enjoy
For
burning,
sure.
18, 20, 24-inch splits. I have no problem doing it in a cooker that is designed for those kind of fluctuations.
Exactly.
The difference is when you put a log on a fire, it's going to get warm up. It's going to smolder. It's actually going to cool the temperature a little bit because it's some weight that's on, already burning embers. And then by the time it warms and it starts to ignite and it hits that burn point, now you have a flare up and a flash flare, right? And it gets hotter and hotter. And unless you're washing your air control, quite a bit, like it can, that burning log can get pretty warm. And then eventually it's going to break down. And if you don't keep replacing it like you would in an offset cooker, like you have your temperatures and they're going to have these wild flares.
Right.
So can you do it in the Hasty Bake? Yes. We burn chunks in the Hasty Bake normally, not
Yes.
logs. And the reason chunks is because it takes this and turns it to this.
Right.
And kind of keeps that smoke continually going. So it's not that the logs are inherently dangerous for the grill. I mean, on an intense flare up, you could have a little bit of, temporary warpage.
Yeah.
But it's not that they're dangerous. It's just that it's not the most efficient way to burn in our grill.
Right.
They work great in an offset.
Certainly.
What do you want to add?
Well, and that's just what, like, I had the conversation with a guy the other day, and he asked me that question, and I kind of gave him a shorter version of that answer.
Yeah, because I'm long-winded.
Yes. And then he said, well, I think initially I just said, no would be my, my short answer is no, we don't. And he said, why? And kind of talking that same line, but I also explained, this is not an offset cooker. You can cook indirect, but it's not offset.
Right.
And, for that reason and many other reasons, like we don't recommend that you use wood splits. Now, again, you can build a fire in that metal box and do with it what you want.
Right.
But our recommendation is always going to be that these are charcoal cookers.
Right, for sure. And yes, wood breaking down turns into charcoal. Like we get all that dynamic. So again, when I get that question, it's normally followed up by like, okay, I know you say no, but like, is it dangerous?
Right.
Not inherently. The other thing I will say though, that's unique to other grills, not the roughneck, because the roughneck it's a box that sits on the ground. But a Hasty Bake, because of our fireboxes and they raise and lower, like all the weight of that firebox, and this is good for just anybody to think about.
Yes.
If you analyze how that firebox works with the crank, the entire weight of that firebox is put on the bolt end of that crank.
Yeah, so the head.
So the head of that crank is basically a screw. It's a bolt, and as you screw it in, it raises and lowers that firebox. So the more weight you put in that firebox, the more weight you put on your crank handle because it all pushes against it. So this goes the same when people are like, can I put fire brick in my, to create a snake pattern? Where you can, but the weight that you're putting in that firebox puts an enormous amount of weight on that one piece of bolt.
Right.
And I've seen those bolts time and time again when someone way overloads their firebox, they bend, and then they won't come out, and then you got to cut them off, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. So we say all that to say this, the log thing is an inefficient way to cook in our specific grills. And it adds a lot of extra weight when you have the firebox moving up and down. Now, I can see why people might want to use logs more often in the roughneck, and it definitely, of all the grills, that would be the most friendly to it.
For sure.
You got the heat shield on it and, all the other stuff. But again, we recommend chunks.
Yes.
And those are just going to burn more efficiently. You can actually put more of them in, and you can control them a lot easier.
Yeah, for sure.
So let's move from that on to charcoal, because obviously there's a bunch of different kinds of charcoal.
Yes.
I'm going to give the 35-second charcoal 101. Charcoal from logs is put into a kiln and burned down into lump charcoal. The lump charcoal is essentially burned log splits pieces. A lot of times furniture factories will take raw, unfinished wood that's been cut down into, 2x2 boards and, 1x4 boards and stuff like that. And they, maybe too wavy, aren't usable. They'll take those and they'll sell those to the kiln because they're great oak wood that hasn't been finished. And those will end up in the kiln too. So that turns into lump charcoal that's all these big pieces, right? And that burns the closest thing to real wood. That lump charcoal, when it gets broken down or pieces in the bottom that have all the extra weight, it turns into kind of more of a fine powder. That's where you get your briquettes from, your competition logs, all those kind of things. Are the finer the powder, the more compressed they put it. And when they put it in briquettes, they have to mix it with some kind of a binder.
That's your time. So join us next time for
briquettes, lump, all that good stuff.
Yeah, next time we'll discuss it even further, but that was the 35 seconds.
There's your 35 seconds.
No.
Briquettes do have binders in them.
Yes.
If you find a really good quality briquette, it's going to be natural binders like cornstarch and things like that. You find a little bit cheaper, they're going to throw borax, things that are still technically fine to burn, but it gives an off flavor. So that's the precursor. So there's multiple kinds of charcoal.
Yes.
What kind of charcoal do you burn?
So I am a bit of a traditionalist. I like just the lump natural hardwood charcoal. Right. That's my favorite. I will do a natural briquette, from time to time.
Like a natural briquette, like an advertised natural briquette.
Yes. And then occasionally it really depends on what I'm doing and if I think about it. I'll mix in some competition logs occasionally.
If you got them laying around.
If I've got them laying around and I think about it, I don't ever use those exclusively.
Sure.
It's funny, you and I have cooked together long enough now that, it's funny. A lot of people build their fires really different from each other, but I just personally, I like the lump the best.
Yeah, I do too.
It's probably my favorite.
I feel like, and like I said before, the lump burns the closest thing to real wood because it still has pieces of real wood in it that are not fully I don't even remember what carbonized, I guess, from the kiln.
Yeah.
It has more airflow in it. It has all the voids, which does make it a little unpredictable sometimes.
Yes.
But all that, it burns when the air hits it. It burns like it would if it was a log. So you get more smoke, you get more flavor, but you do get a little bit more of this with lump because you can have a really dense piece and then you can have a really loose piece and you got fine pieces and all that. So for people that bothers, then you would move on to the briquettes. We would recommend the natural briquettes. The thing that sets the natural briquettes off is it's either no binders or natural binders like cornstarch or something like that. Sometimes they'll use moisture, they'll compress it, and then they'll dry it out and then compress it again, and they'll kind of do that. So if you're going to buy briquettes, buy the best quality natural. A lot of times it'll say like lump briquettes or whatever it's made from, lump charcoal. And a lot of that's branding, but buy the natural stuff. I would not recommend the really, really cheapy stuff. I'm not going to name brands or anything, but like if you can get 2 bags for $7 at Walmart, probably not the highest quality.
Right.
But yeah, you can use any charcoal, but we're particularly a fan of the smoke and the flavor and everything you get off lump. Obviously, we have skin in the game because we sell lump charcoal. But there's a lot of, I'll even name like Rockwood's a great brand. Blues Hog is a great brand. B&B makes great. Royal Oak is a pretty good brand. Like all those guys, and there's tiers of all those charcoal. So don't think that, experiment, get what you like, but just don't feel like you have to be tied down.
And there are higher end charcoals for sure out there.
Yeah, Fogo's a high end. Jealous Devil, all really quality. Some of them are South American, some of them are all over the world, kind of wood.
But I would tell, and this is a question that we get a lot also, for our non-local folks, and they want to know, well, can I burn anything other than Hasty Bake, which absolutely can. Yeah. And, I think sometimes people are a little bit shocked when I say, what would you do? Go get some Royal Oak, man. You're not going to be disappointed in it.
Run down to Home Depot, run down to Walmart, Royal Oak, B&B, Jealous Devil, like all those are good quality brands that you can buy in those big box stores. Rockwood, if you can find it, is outstanding. Blues Hog is outstanding. Honestly, the Big Green Egg charcoal is not bad.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid. So all those are great brands, but regardless, our point is buy a quality brand. All of them are going to have different flavors because charcoal is made up of wood, right? So the Hasty Bake one is a mix of hickory and oak.
Yes.
There's some that are hickory and oak and maple. Some have hickory and oak and pecan. Some are just straight oak. So figure out what your favorite flavor profile is. Yeah. And play around with it.
I would just say, if you've made an investment in one of our grills, right, there's no secret. It's not a box store grill that you're going to replace, in 2 or 3 years. So you've made an investment in it. So continue that, that mindset. Right on down the line, that mindset, and get a good quality, charcoal that you really like instead of, like you said, then turning around and going buying stuff that has, all these kind of
binders and weird stuff.
And junk in it. So,
well, and the thing to think about too, and we'll end the charcoal conversation on this, unless you have anything else to bring up, is because of the convection of your Hasty Bake grill, you get more smoke and you get deeper smoke. You don't get more smoke as like, oh my gosh, that's smoky more smoke. It's a cleaner flavor profile, but the smoke comes out more than if you were cooking in like a Weber kettle or something because it's constantly circulating, right? Yeah. So if you use a crappy charcoal, a charcoal that's got binders that's, is using off woods or whatever, that smoke flavor is going to penetrate your meat more. So it's going to hit you harder than it would if it was in like a Weber kettle or something like that. So just analyze, do I want the flavor of that cheap charcoal to be all over my meat? Right. Or would I rather have something that is a little bit more subtle and a little bit sweeter and everything else that goes into that because it's going to be magnified in a Hasty Bake grill versus something else. Okay. First time grill owner. How do I season my grill? Take it off the pallet. What do I do with it? Yeah. So, once I've got it ready, assembled, and when we say assembled, they show up 92% assembled. Yeah. There's just a couple of things, 10 minutes and a screwdriver and you're ready to go. But, do you want me to go through my? So, well, as far as seasoning it, so like getting it ready for the first cook. Yeah. So, what I would suggest, what I like to do with any new Hasty Bake that I get is I'll take a can of duck fat or some Pam or whatever you've got, and I'll spray like inside. A high temp oil, like a canola oil or peanut
all
oil
in that hood, just everywhere in that hood. So
and on the cooking grills itself too, right?
So I like to say, anything from cooking grates and above, I will coat down pretty generously, and if you've got the either the 357 or the Gourmet Pros, I even hit on the inside of all those hinges and everything and just make sure everything's ready to go. But Like to do that, and I'll build a small fire. This is especially true with our stainless steel models, and we'll kind of talk about the differences and why we say small fire with that one. But build a small fire, and I light it, and I'll throw on a few pieces of wood. And burn it for a little bit and let it get. I would smoke it heavier than I would normally smoke with food on there.
Sure.
And then just let everything start sticking to that oil and that hood.
Kind of like a piece of cast iron.
Yeah, exactly. And just that's how I want to kick my seasoning off. And then, that's what I do to season it. I mean, we'll talk about like what do you want to cook first, because that, in my opinion, is kind of part 1A or I'm sorry 1B or part 2 of seasoning, kicking off the seasoning process of it.
Right, for sure. Yeah, I'm with you. I like to treat it like a piece of cast iron, not because it's going to like absorb into the pores or anything like that, but more because there's reflectivity on that grill, especially on the stainless, that you want to darken up. So it's not quite as important on the powder coat grills, although I definitely like to hit the cooking grates on themselves because I want them to start to season, because they do season more like cast iron. The hood and everything, it's going to start to kind of develop a seal that'll be really nice, and you'll want some of the grease and stuff like that. And I'll talk about that in a minute. But especially on the stainless ones, because if you look at the stainless steel, it's a mirror.
Yeah.
So when you put oil on it and then you heat that oil starts to brown and darken that mirror. And the darker that mirror is, the less reflectivity of it. The less reflectivity, the less the heat bounces off, because heat's like light, it bounces. And you want to knock that down because you want it to have an oven effect, not like a radiant bouncing effect.
Yeah.
So it's especially important in the stainless grills to go ahead and hit it. Some people hit inside the body too. I don't, but that's fine.
Yeah, I don't.
Your fire will do a lot of kind of darkening that.
Yeah.
But one piece of advice I give people, and they're kind of surprised by it, and this is way more important in the stainless than anything, is I tell them sacrifice a bag of charcoal.
Yeah.
Not a crappy bag, a decent bag. Doesn't have to be top of the line, but a decent bag. But sacrifice a bag of charcoal. And what I'll say, like you say, start a small fire. I say, hey, try to figure out a way to hold the 225 to 250 degree fire. And after you oil it down, get that fire in there. And you're literally just experimenting. Don't even throw food on if you can for a minute. Hit it with oil, start that fire. Let it hold 225, 250 for like an hour. Open it back up and put some more charcoal in it and let it hold 300 for like an hour. Yeah. Open it back up, put a lot more charcoal in it, get it up to 350, 375 for like an hour. And take that 3 or 4 or 5 hours, drink some beers, do whatever. But your seasoning, you don't have to do this, but what this does is it shortens the seasoning process by like weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
And then what I'll do at the end there when I got a 350 degree fire is I'll just throw some cheap hamburger meat on it, cook some burgers.
Which is
sausages.
What we were going to say. So anything, I always like to tell people, anything with a higher fat content is what I want. So, some 80-20 burgers, some sausage, even bacon, although the
scary.
Yeah, the only thing is especially if you're new to cooking with a Hasty Bake, and I mean, it's just any grill in general, but bacon puts off a lot of grease, which you want all that for the seasoning. However, what you don't want is a grease fire. So
what I do is I'll put bacon in a cast iron pan.
I knew that's what you were going to say, yeah. So bacon's great, just be
think about bacon spitting grease everywhere.
Yeah,
like when it's on the grate itself, it can leak down the grease, can get the fire, you can get a grease fire, right? It'll smoke up a lot, all that good stuff. It's a little hard to control when you're first coming into the Hasty Bake world. But if you put it in a pan, aluminum pan, cast iron, whatever, let it spit all over the place, it's seasoning your walls.
Right.
But even set of cheap burgers. But the main reason I'm doing that, there's two reasons. One, I want to knock the reflectivity down, especially on the stainless, and two, I want to build a bed of ash.
Yeah.
Because I never like to cook on my Hasty Bake without at least a cook's worth of ash in there.
Yeah.
Because that ash is almost a brake pedal for when that fire gets out, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute with fire management.
Funny you said brake pedal, so I always describe it as brake pads. And how thick are your brake pads?
Great. Yeah. Perfect. Because when you drop that firebox down, you can rest that firebox in the ash, and you're vacuuming out all the air from underneath it.
Yeah.
And it starts to tame that fire a lot. So as you're learning, the more ash you have in the bottom, the easier it is for you to maintain that fire temp and kind of use that crank almost like a gas pedal and a brake until you get it figured out. Now, when I go to clean my grill out, I rarely clean out all the ash unless it's just had like a lot of water leaked in it or something. It's just a mess. I normally leave about half an inch to an inch of ash in the very bottom, and I line it with foil and everything. And I will empty that ash out from time to time to make sure the ash pan condition is everything's all good. But I like having that in there because it just makes that cook so much easier. A few years ago, I used to run Tulsa Barbecue School, and we'd have classes all the time. And we had like 12 Hasty Bakes that we'd fire up at these classes and have people come out and learn things. And I got 4 new 132s for the class. So our stainless legacies, and our first cook was chicken wings on them. Ooh. And I literally sprayed it with oil, and then we went into the class, and we had some 400-degree chicken wings that were fried perfectly. But that heat will definitely run away on the stainless models. So season up the inside, coat it down with pan, whatever you're going to do. Run that fire for a few hours. That's more of a learning thing for you.
Yeah.
Figure out your temps.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So that's how you season your grill for the first time. I've also gone into it and just hit the grates and moved on, but that just sets you up for success that way.
Yeah.
Speaking of fire, how do you light your fire 9 times out of 10?
Most of the time, shameless plug, but I use our fire starter gel. Thank you. All sales pitches aside, I tell people that it's just too easy and convenient to not use it.
Agreed.
So if you're not familiar, we have some fire starter gel that you can just
you go. You just kind
of that you can use instead of using a chimney or something like that.
Well, so explain the difference between the fire starting gel and like a lighter fluid.
Well, lighter fluid's nasty.
Fair.
And probably
and
not
petroleum
good for you.
Based. Right, petroleum based.
So our fire, and you may know better than I do all of the active ingredients in it.
It's primarily alcohol and ethanol.
Yes.
Which both food safe products.
Yeah.
Both no smell. Both no residual whatever. A lighter fluid, like you go out and get a Kingsford lighter fluid, it's got petroleum in it. That's why it smells like lighter fluid and does that. And it also doesn't stay put.
No. And so you can burn you can use a golf ball size is usually what I tell people. A golf ball size of this on your ash pan and light it, and it will light instantly. And it's going to burn for, depending on how big you've got, 5-7 minutes.
Right.
And it's going to start your charcoal.
Right.
One of the knocks that I always get is people aren't interested in charcoal because they go, well, I can go out there and fire up my gas grill and be ready to cook on it in 10 minutes. Yep. And I promise you, once you start setting up your Hasty Bake and setting up your cook, you can be ready to cook hamburgers on your Hasty Bake in 10 minutes. I promise you.
There's a warm-up period on any grill.
Yep.
Gas or otherwise. You don't want to put anything on a cold grill. If you know how to use the fire gel, the airflow, all that correctly, which we do, shameless plug, have a fire management video and a 101 video on our YouTube page. We'll put it in the comments on this video. But if you just go to YouTube and type in Hasty Bake Fire Management or Hasty Bake 101, great video resources. And the fire management's real. I mean, I'm a little biased because I did it, but it's very, very effective because it's broken up into like, how do you burn a long burn? How do you burn a short burn? How do you light the fire? How do you put out the fire? Like all those, things that could be potentially obvious. With our grills, we just kind of give you the look through that. But yeah, definitely, like you said, golf ball size, we'll get a good smoking fire. If you're going to grill, I'll use, it may be maybe double that, but I normally will like spread it around so I have a lot more fire to go instead of just one.
Or like write your name.
Yeah, little hearts and things like that.
But chimneys are great too.
When would you use a chimney?
I just don't.
I use mine when I'm doing super hot fast stuff. So like if I just want to sear the hell out of a steak that's like been sous vide or something like that. Like that chimney just gets going lightning quick.
It's funny. What I was going to say is the only time, I think the last time I used a chimney at the house was I think I had done a couple of tri-tips just for some friends that we were having over, and I had them on my gourmet.
Right.
Was reverse searing them.
Right.
And, really wanted to finish them off good. And so I did a chimney and dumped it in my my Ranger right next to it. And then that's what I did to finish it off.
Because you got it there quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our steak cooker guys love using chimneys because it gets what they need to get done unbelievably quick. Like you can have a chimney up and going. Now, realistically, probably 5 or 7 minutes, just like the lighter gel, but the chimney is so many more, charcoal pieces, whether it's lump or briquettes or whatever. that when you dump it in there, like you have a much bigger fire.
Yeah.
So if you're doing a hot and fast grill on a weeknight, like chimney is a great option. Like you do not necessarily need to use the fire gel. Chimney becomes a little bit detrimental when you're trying to smoke.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times you end up lighting more charcoal than you should. And then once you put it in there, other stuff gets lit and it could tend to potentially run away on you.
Yeah.
If you weren't like using just a small amount of coal and you weren't very careful about where you placed it. So chimney's not bad.
No.
To me, it's just a little bit of a one-trick pony.
Yeah. And I just feel like it's a step that I don't have to do. Again, if I was doing a competition and needed that, then you know, I would probably do it more.
Well, these guys are in competition are cooking 500, 600 degrees at the grate.
Yes.
Where in our backyard, we're normally doing 350, 400.
Right.
I will tell you, though, and again, yes, we're going to shameless plug the fire gel because we make it, but at the same time, I've gone on vacation before and used like a crappy VRBO grill or whatever, and I'll still run down to the Ace Hardware, and there's a brand called, I think it's Rutledge or Rutland, and they make, it's like a fireplace starting gel, and it's very, very similar to the Hasty Bake gel. So if you can't get our gel or around, like you could go down to an Ace Hardware or a Home Depot and they may sell something similar. I can't guarantee it's going to be the exact same ingredients, but it works so well that on vacation, like I went and grabbed that gel and I'll use it to light my fire pit or my fireplace or whatever. And I do I do it at home too. Like I light my fireplace every winter. I keep a bottle of fire gel by the fireplace, and that's what I use.
Luckily, we have it available on our website right now.
In singles and 4-packs.
Yep.
Just saying, right there. You can, or I'll sell you a case.
I will. Yeah.
I truthfully buy a case at a time and I leave it in the garage.
Yeah.
Now, if you leave that cap open, the alcohol can evaporate. And if you leave it outside during the winter, like in the cold, that definitely has a play on it. So I'll bring my fire gel, I'll keep the bottle that I normally keep on the back porch.
Treat it like your pets.
Yes. When it gets cold, bring them in.
Yeah. If you're cold, they're cold.
Right. Yes, agreed. All right. So we kind of talked a little about what your first cook would be on here. So if someone's coming in, regardless of seasoning the grill, they're like, man, I need an experimental cook. Where would you start?
You mean after what they
after it's been seasoned? Like if you say I need to learn how to cook meat on my grill, like what's a good meat to start with, where I can learn how to manage this grill effectively?
So if I was trying to do it as cheap as I could and I was trying to learn how to smoke, I would start with bologna.
Okay.
I mean, first of all, everybody loves it.
Sure.
You're probably not going to ruin it. It's not going to be a super long cook.
Right.
And it's pretty cheap.
Agreed. That's great.
I mean, I'm a sucker for and it is intimidating to a lot of people, but I would jump right into a pork butt.
You wouldn't do a brisket?
I would not. If I was brand new, I would not. Yeah. And the other thing, man, that people, don't really think about is do some chicken thighs. I mean, we cook enough chicken thighs, but those things are going to be good, even if you overcook them, which we do. I mean, on purpose. Yeah. We like to take our chicken thighs a little bit higher internal temp, but, man, any of those. So you don't have to run out and get an expensive piece of meat until you're comfortable.
We recommend don't. Yeah. Bologna's great. My first thing would probably be a pork butt or chicken thighs, but bologna would definitely be my top 3. And the only reason I say that is bologna is one of those hard things where you don't know when it's done because you're not looking for an internal temperature. So it's really a color thing. Yeah. So in my mind, if you're going to start on bologna, it's a great way to just experiment. What are my temperatures doing? Because after an hour and a half, you can pull up bologna and you're good. But now you can know how to manage the grill a little bit. But yeah, definitely bologna, pork butt, chicken thighs would be my top 3. Chicken thighs are a great way to start the grilling process too, because they put off some fat, but not so much fat that they're going to have continual flare-ups.
I would also say, because I think I saw some of this the last couple of weeks in the grill community, even if you're new to Hasty Bake, but you've cooked briskets for 15 years,
right?
I would encourage you to cook a pork butt or something cheaper. Than a brisket for the first time, because the convection style and the way these things cook, they cook different. And, we see it all the time. We see people going, hey, I'm 4 hours in on my brisket and it's
almost done.
Yeah. And they're panicked. Right. So, these are definitely going to speed your timeline up, and I love seeing people that are like, well, I'm going to start my brisket at 11 o'clock tonight. And I'm like, you're going to have it for breakfast if you do that. So I would just encourage you before you start jumping into
Yeah, it's less of a you're going to destroy your meat and more of a learn your timeline thing.
That's it. Is just learn your timeline and before you invite 50 people over and you're like, oh, we're gonna cook 4 briskets and everything. Like, just get to a point where you feel comfortable, with the grill and with your timeline and your temperatures.
Agreed, for sure. Yeah, you will learn that you can cook a 5 or 6 hour pork butt, a 5 to 7 hour brisket. Things like that. Don't be shocked by it. Don't be surprised by it. If you're cooking a little hotter than you wanted to, factor in a little bit longer rest to let that internal temperature kind of come down and everything to redistribute. But at the end of the day, learn on something cheap.
Yeah, for sure.
And again, not because we anticipate you destroying it.
No.
Obviously that could happen, but learn on something cheap because your timelines are going to be vastly different, especially in smoking, than it would be for something else.
Yeah.
A new time Hasty Baker versus someone who's like used a big green egg or, an offset smoker or, even a pit barrel or something like that. There's going to be more smoke leakage out of their grill. Is something wrong with it?
No, our grills like to breathe.
Perfect.
Yeah. Yeah, I was actually having a conversation with a guy this morning, and that was one of his not concerns, but he has not been familiar with Hasty Bakes and was asking me specifically about that. And I just said, no, like these are designed to breathe, occasionally. And, you and I both are online quite a bit, and we'll see that where people are trying to do things.
Gasket, clamps.
Yeah, just trying to do something to it to seal it up.
Which, if you want to, it's fine, but I'll tell you, you're working against the design of the grill.
That's exactly what I was going to say, is we didn't design it to do that. We designed the grill. I say we like we designed it.
We collectively.
Yeah, we designed it to breathe. And so, like we've talked about since the beginning of this episode, is these are different. And this part of that grill is no different than, it's all different. That was a really wordy, bad way to say that.
We'll fix it in post.
Fix it in post.
Don't post anything.
But it's supposed to breathe.
So, and to just expand on that, because we need more words.
Yes.
There's a such thing as stale smoke, and you do get it in other grills on the market. You can combat stale smoke by adding more air, but the problem is with charcoal, when you add more air, you get more temperature.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, like when you're doing a slow smoke on, I'm just going to say a Kamado style or something like that, there's not a lot of convection space in there. So you can get like a chamber that's like, you open it up and you're like, oh, look at all that smoke. Well, it's white, puffy, stale smoke that can't go anywhere, so it gets trapped.
Also called a house fire.
Yes. So the reason we don't mind ours leaking is because that means the chamber is full of smoke and that smoke is moving. Now, I get if you're like, I don't like the smoke all over the patio, you want to you can clamp it down, and it's fine. It will work. I promise you it will work. But you're not going to have quite as efficient of a cook. It's not going to cook the exact way it was designed. Now, does that matter? Not necessarily. People love to modify things. They modify cars. They modify whatever. So if you're a modifier, like, don't be afraid. That's fine. You'll probably get a little bit of crap from the grill community because there's so many diehards like, this is the best cooker out there.
Right.
But, modifying is fine. But I will tell you, like, it will cook better despite all your modifications, your gaskets and your clamps and your extra thermometers, and we'll talk thermos here in a minute.
Yeah.
All that. It will cook better if you just learn how the thing is, get 10 or 15 cooks under your belt, and then you're going to be like, oh, I don't really need all that. But if you do add those things, you're going to lengthen your learning curve. And then when you ask for advice, you're like, how do I do this? And people give you advice, and it's not going to work the same because you're working on basically a different cooker.
Yeah.
So there's our 2 cents on smoke leakage.
Yeah.
We use Tell True thermometers on our cookers. We have not always.
No.
But in the last 7-ish years, we've used Tell True thermometer. And you can tell on your thermometer on the very bottom, it will say Tell True Manufacturing. If it does not say that.
If it says Tulsa, Oklahoma.
Yeah, well, they both say Tulsa. But one of them says Tell True Manufacturing, and then it says Tulsa or wherever the position is.
Yeah, that's right.
But if it doesn't say Tell True, you have an older one. The back of the inside of the thermometer is probably a little thicker, like this, the width of a dime. You can upgrade your thermometer to the new Tell True thermometer. They're on our website. I think they run like $30 or something. Just a little wing nut, pull it on, it's easy. But we use Tell True thermometers because we believe they're the most accurate one on the market. If you go to any high-end grill on the market, it will be a Tell True thermometer. I'm not even going to name brands. Like anything high-end, it has a Tell True. They handle all of them, so we put that on it.
Yep.
Zach, is that thermometer accurate?
Well, it's accurate to something.
Where's it accurate to?
It is accurate to where it's located on the hood.
Right. Why does that cause confusion?
Well, because depending on which model you have, and where that thermometer is mounted versus where your cooking surface is. It could be 3 inches difference, or it could be, I mean, I don't even know how.
Probably 6.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I mean, the Hastings is what I was thinking about.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's
That's
a big
probably
difference.
8. Yeah.
But yes, so it is accurate. Now, what's not accurate is the temperature inside. Not accurate. That's not the right word. But what's not the same across the entire of your entire cooking surface is the temperature. Right. So, it could be 250 degrees on the nose on your thermometer, and then you go put a probe or an ambient probe on your, right next to your grilling surface, and it shows 265 or 270 degrees, and that's absolutely possible.
And that's absolutely normal.
Yes.
The reason anybody puts a thermometer on a hood is to give you an average of what's going on inside the cooker. Obviously, it's hotter by the fire. Obviously, it's cooler further away from the fire. Yeah. This is the average. If you were to put that same probe in your oven at home,
I was going to say that.
If you ever listen to it, especially if you have a gas oven, like every 5 minutes you'll hear a whoom, because your gas is firing back up, and it gets, you set your oven to 350, and that gas goes up and it hits like 380, and then it tools down, and then it turns off, and it kind of gets an ambient, and then it gets to about 330, and then you're whoom, and it fires the flame back up, and your thing says 350.
Right.
You think you're cooking at 350, but if you put a thermometer probe on it, it's doing this the entire time.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing in a barbecue grill. That's an ambient temp registered where the thermometer is to give you an average of what's going on inside the grill. Now, if you read a recipe and it says cook something at 250 degrees, it's telling you based on the thermometer on the outside of the grill.
Right.
It factors in that, yes, your cooking surface is probably 290, 300 maybe.
Yes.
But the recipe you're following, the advice on YouTube that Aaron Franklin gave you or whoever and says cook something at 250 degrees, they're going by the thermometer that's averaging their grill. So it's not like, oh my gosh, I'm 50 degrees hotter than, no, you're where you need to be.
Right.
Now, if the recipe said get 300 degrees on the grate and you were 300 degrees on your upper one and it could be 350, okay, that could be a problem. But no recipe does that. No advice does that. It says this is what you want your cook chamber to be.
Yeah.
The only reason that really comes up is because digital thermometers have gotten so much more popular because of I can see what's going on when I'm at the grocery store, which is great.
Right.
You and I both use Fireboard,
for
right?
sure.
They're wonderful. But they tend to kind of throw that false positive of like, well, I think I'm cooking hotter than I'm supposed to.
Yeah.
Don't be surprised by that. If you were to take that same digital thermometer, which we have, and clip it onto the end of your probe on your tell-true,
Right.
it's going to register the exact same within half a degree of what your tell-true tells you. So don't stress about it. If you got a tell-true thermometer, trust what's on that.
Yeah.
Also, don't be super concerned about temperatures, right?
Right. No, just, I mean, if I tell you that I want to smoke ribs at 275, in all honesty, if that's what I'm going for is 275. If I'm between 250 and 300, that's where we're rolling today. Wherever it settles in at, that's where I'm going to roll with it.
It's not going to suck.
No.
Let's put it that way.
No.
It's so much more forgiving than you think it is.
Yeah.
Especially if you're using like a heat shield or offset or whatever, but it's just in general so much more forgiving.
Yeah.
I don't stress about in a perfect world, I would be holding 275 degrees for pork because I love the smokiness. You get a little bit lower temp and everything, right?
Yeah.
At 250, I'm not going to flinch.
No.
I'm really not even going to make an adjustment until I get over 310, 315.
Usually,
325 is where I'm like, all right, I guess I'm running a little hotter than I want to be.
Yeah, so usually about 310 is when I'll be like, okay, I need to pay attention and see which way we're going to go.
Is it falling or rising?
Right. And that's when I'll, kind of decide if I'm going to go make an adjustment. But
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Real quick, I want to wrap this up because I don't want to go too long today, but new grill owner, what accessories should I get with my grill? And yes, of course, we want to sell you guys some stuff. Get all the stuff.
Yeah. But don't we have a bundle pack for all of them?
Almost.
We have you don't save any extra money for buying all of them, but we will send you.
We give you a free
koozie.
box. And you want a koozie? We'll give you a koozie.
Yeah.
You're in charge of.
We'll build it into the
We'll
price.
build it.
But
Sure.
Yeah.
No. So we have a starter kit, and here's the deal. The starter kit is, if I remember right, it's like 90 some odd dollars worth of stuff, and it's like less than $75. So we give you a deal on it. But it's our Grand Sway cookbook, which is just a blast to read with really good recipes and some fun ones. It's a scraper, which everyone needs something to clean their grill surface, so that's included. It's a set of red barbecue gloves. They're heavy Kevlar style leather gloves that you can do anything with inside the grill. Pull the firebox out, move the charcoal around, whatever you need to do. Like that covers that. There's normally a grill lifter inside to kind of pick up your grill grates and move them around as you do some maintenance. There's a bottle of fire gel like we talked about before.
Yeah.
I think that's everything in
I
the
think that's
actual
it.
starter kit.
Yeah.
Because realistically, if you buy a grill and a starter kit, you have everything you need.
Yeah.
Now, the accessories come into like, what do you normally like to cook?
Right.
Because that's going to, and what grill do you have, right?
Yeah.
We sell an extender rack that works wonderful on the Legacy of adding
And
extra
Suburban.
and Suburban, depending on the size, and the Ranger even.
Yeah.
That adds another 50% of grilling space. That's kind of an offset because our Gourmets and our Hastings have that upper warming rack that give you that same or more amount of space on them. So that's a great way to like, hey, I need to get an extra couple racks of ribs or an extra pork butt or two. Throw it on the extender rack.
Yeah.
What's your favorite accessory?
So I don't use it as much as I'd like to, but I love our rotisserie kit.
Yeah,
I love it. Every time I use it, I think, why don't I use this more?
Right.
I
think we think it's a pain in the butt, and then really it's like an extra 5 minutes.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I love that. I love our griddle. I love being able to do some fun things with that.
Yeah. That griddle is so much more versatile than people think it is.
Yeah.
9 times out of 10, it stays in my grill. And
Yeah.
if I need to smoke something and I can fit it on half the grill, I'm just going to leave the griddle there because it's not going to hurt anything. But then if I need to slide something over and griddle on it, it's right there and ready for me to go.
Yeah.
That's fun. We have a pepper rack that's also kind of a chicken drum rack that you can stack drum legs in or jalapeno poppers or stuff like that. And you get like 24 to 30 of them or something in a small amount of space because they stand up and the cheese doesn't drip out of them.
That's right.
That's super fun. Have a basting pan for all your chili, soup, braising needs.
Yeah.
The griddle's probably one of my favorite accessories that we sell just because, again, it's super versatile. All these were on sale during the Scratch and Dent sale.
Yes.
So hopefully you grabbed one of those. But realistically, like, what do you need to get started? Get a starter kit or everything that's in the starter kit. But just get a starter kit. You'll save some money. Yeah, that'll get you.
And I would say if you didn't, or if you were on the fence about accessories, it's okay to not and to just learn your grill first,
right?
And then holidays are right around the corner.
Yep.
So.
And honestly, there'll be some Black Friday deals available too. So I wouldn't stress about it, but you're going to need a scraper or something, and we recommend not using the wire ones because they can break off. So whatever it is, you need a scraper, you need a way to light your grill, so we kind of include all that. The other thing that's not included in our accessories, but I would always recommend with somebody, is get a good digital internal thermometer probe. Not necessarily like the wired, whatever, but like just a handheld.
Yeah.
ThermoWorks makes a great one called a ThermaPen. They make a cheaper one called a ThermaPop. That
both are great.
Work great. There's other cheaper brands out there that you can get on Amazon for $15-20.
Yeah.
It's realistically, most of these come down to how accurate is it and how quick do they actually read that temperature. But that will be, if you were asking me the number one thing that changed my barbecue game, it was using an internal temperature probe.
Yes,
I never guess ever again. I've never cut open a steak, a piece of chicken to see if it's done.
No.
100% of the time, I know exactly what's going on inside that piece of meat.
Yeah, it's nice to be able, because you and I can talk about it and be like, oh, yeah, I cooked this steak, and you're going, people are like, well, how do you want it done? And I'm like, I want it to 134 degrees.
Right.
And you can hit that. You can do that.
100%.
So, that is definitely a game changer.
Yep. Last thing.
Yep.
Grill covers. We sell a lot of grill covers when people buy their grills, and we're very happy about that because it's going to help you protect your investment.
Yes.
Again, the battle we have is we just sold you a 25-year grill. I would love for you to not cover it and need to come back soon.
Right.
But at the same time, like, we like to see our tools around out there for a long time. So, do you need to worry about covering your grill?
You don't need to worry about it if you buy a cover. Yeah,
that was cool. That was a nice. I'm going to cut that out and make that an Instagram.
Yeah, we'll save that. I would say if you've made this investment in it, you want to take care of it,
right?
And that is a great way to protect it. You don't need it all the time,
right?
But there are times that you absolutely want that cover on there
for sure.
And there are cheaper options that you can go find if you want to buy a cheaper cover for it. They're not ours.
Right.
Our covers are, cut and measured and cut to fit our grills.
Specifically, yeah.
And that will help them not blow away and end up in your neighbor's yard.
So a lot of times those universal ones, they're kind of just a blah shape.
Yeah.
Like they kind of roundish, they're kind of not. A lot of times they'll have a drawstring on them to kind of crank them down.
Yeah.
And I honestly, the first time I bought my first Hasty Bake, I flinched at that Hasty because it was an investment. I flinched at the price of the Hasty Bake cover, right? So I went out and I bought a $25 cover on Amazon, and it lasted me 3 months. No exaggeration, 3 months. The sun just baked it.
Yeah.
So I went and bought a nicer one on Amazon, and it lasted me like 8 months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And then it was toast. We see all the time people have covers that are 15 years old here. And we're still making them the same way we have, but they'll be 15 years old.
Yeah.
And they just last and last and last. So, I mean, you're going to buy 5 covers in that same amount of time.
Yeah.
Here's my primer on covers right here. If you have a powder coat grill and you are not storing it inside, like in your garage, you should absolutely 100% of the time have a cover. If you have a stainless grill, it really depends on how you're using it. So the stainless grill is not going to rust out on you per se because it's stainless. It's not stain proof, but it's stainless, right? But the more you leave that out without a cover, like you will get some spotting on it, fine kind of just, grain discoloration and stuff like that over years and years and years of use and all that. But you're not going to have like a full on rust out problem. The problem with the powder coat is if the powder coat can get compromised, water can get down underneath the powder coat and cause a rust process. The way powder coat gets compromised is moisture and ash mixed together. They create lye, which is corrosive. And it will start to break down and start eating through the powder coat. We see that happen on the rails of the ash pan on our black models. We see it happen on where the rails that hold the cooking grills in. We'll see it sometimes on the inside of the lid. Because ash floats up from the fire and then kind of sits on there. So another good reason to keep your grill clean. But the less moisture you can permit in that grill, the less you're going to have that problem. So in rain, definitely cover your grill. But we also say, like, when it's not raining,
take it off.
Take it off because the cover can hold in a little bit of moisture. So work with it. If you got rain coming, cover it up. If you don't have rain coming, don't worry about covering it up. Stainless grill, a lot of it's just more of will the grill look cleaner and prettier? And yes. It's not going to necessarily prolong the life of your stainless, but it will make it look a lot prettier when comes time to go ahead and use it. Less cleaning involved, but the powder coat ones, like, absolutely 100% of the time, like, we recommend a cover.
And I'll say 2 things. I know you wanted to wrap up, but real quick, especially with your powder coated models, I know a lot of times people want to power wash off their patios and things like that. If you do that, I would move your grill off out of the way when you do it, because a lot of times when you're spraying that either power washer or that hose, you're going to get moisture and water up underneath the bottom of that grill, and that can cause some problems.
Ground moisture in general too. That's one of the reasons we say take the cover off. Because ground moisture can come up through concrete. And it hits that roof of the bottom of your grill, that metal roof, and it can condensate underneath there and start kind of trying to create some funk.
And the last thing I'll say is we actually don't sell this, but we should take this offline. But get yourself, especially with these new Hasty Bakes, grab yourself a cheap grill mat.
That's great.
And I buy cheap grill mat every year on Amazon, that usually in the spring, and then at the end of the year, or I just replace it. But all new grills can leak and will leak.
Sure, that grease has got to go somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. So just buy a cheap one, put it out there, and then roll it up and throw it away and get you a new one next year.
And if you don't want to go with a cheap option, one that I found that lasts a long time is the concrete mats at like Home Depot and Lowe's.
Yes, for sure.
And I've been using those for a while. Now, honestly, they can stain the concrete a little bit because the concrete discolors around them and they're sealing everything in. But they do a great job of keeping, if ash falls out of your firebox while you're working on it or something, like, it'll keep it off the concrete, keep the concrete from being stained. They normally have some texture in them that will catch the grease and hold it there long enough for you to kind of see it and wipe it up with a paper towel. But every new grill, regardless of the brand, is going to leak. Only so much of that grease can get eaten up by the fire. It's going to go somewhere. So sometimes it'll leak out the firebox or the fire door or a leg or something like that. Don't be surprised by that. But the grill mat will keep your patio nice and clean, protect it, especially if you got like a wood deck. Absolutely recommend those concrete mats. It's 100% necessary. But that's a great add-on. I didn't have that in the notes. Now, we do sell a grill mat that's that you stand on in front of it. It's got the Hasty Bake logo on it. Kind of
Yes.
cool. You could technically put that underneath your grill, but
Yeah,
if you
I
get a
just-
lot, hot ash or something falls
Right.
on it, it could cause some damage. It will catch grease. But,
Yeah.
But I'm with you. Like the cheapy or the concrete is a
Yeah.
great way to go on that.
Yep.
Hey, as we wrap up here, I just want to remind you, we mentioned it earlier, but if you go to YouTube and type in Hasty Bake Fire Management Video or Hasty Bake 101, you will find the two biggest resources we made available. The 101 is, hey, you just bought a grill, you don't know anything about it, let's
Right.
get started.
Or it's also a good, I always tell people that are interested in learning more about the grills
Right.
is to check us
Yeah,
out.
yeah, I
there.
haven't bought a grill yet.
Yeah.
How does this grill work?
Yeah, for sure.
It's great. The fire management is you just got a grill or you've had a grill for a while and you're having a little bit of hard time figuring out how to build a certain kind of fire. So like I said, there's a long burn that's really popular section of it. There's how to start a quick, weeknight fire for just, grilling some chicken wings or some burgers. There's, how to put the charcoal in and arrange it, how to pack it, how to use the heat shield. If your fire's running away on you, what do you do? Like all those things are in that fire management video. It's a really crucial piece of information.
Yeah.
It's like 40 minutes long, so it doesn't take too long to kind of, on a lunch break learn.
Right.
But check out, again, you can go to YouTube, type in Hasty Bake Fire Management or Hasty Bake 101. That's going to get you that information. Again, if you guys have been watching this and you are longtime Hasty Bakers, hey, thanks for joining us.
Yes.
If you are a first-time or new Hasty Baker, welcome to the family.
Yes.
I can almost promise you're never going to leave. Is it a cult? No, but kind of maybe.
but
we're
it's
not
not a cult.
It's not a cult.
Yeah.
We're cult adjacent.
That's right.
But hey, seriously, we are super excited that you decided to join the Hasty Bake family and make this a part of your life. And I promise you, it will become a part of your life. It will become like a new obsession to you. And the reason being is because it adds such value. And this sounds so over-romanticized, but I'm serious. Cooking outside, barbecuing, like a lot of us have done that for a long time. We'll grill burgers on the weeknight or something. But when you have a hobby like this that you start getting such an amazing product off of, it starts to kind of define like what you make your new priorities.
Yeah.
So if I can cook this great food, well, now I might want to entertain people more often if
Right.
if I'm very confident in my abilities, right?
Right.
I may want to cook more often if everything that comes off it is so good. Then instead of using that skillet on the stove, instead of using the oven, instead of calling for pizza, well, I can cook burgers or steaks and they're going to be better than pizza.
Right.
So you start to reprioritize your life a little bit around the fact that like I'm a better cook than I thought I was
Yeah.
because you now have a product that just makes those skills come out. So again, we want to welcome you because I think this is going to become a new, really big, important part of your life. And me and Zach and the entire Hasty Bake team, like we're here to support you. So if you got
Definitely.
questions on anything, you can obviously call the store, but also support at hastybake.com gets an email directly to our support team. Zach runs our customer experience division, and he sees all those as well.
Yep.
And it's just a great way to communicate. So again, you got questions, call the store, check out YouTube, hit up support. You have any issues with your order, anything, hit up
Yeah.
support. Like we can get you where you need to go. We want to make sure you're set up for success, and we really do care. We're based here in Tulsa.
Yeah.
We're an American company. Everything about us is American, and truly we care. Like we want this to be a really fun, enjoyable part of your life that you use for years and years and pass it down to your kids. and
Absolutely.
all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
Nope. Gonna go take a nap.
Yeah, let's go do that.
Yep.
Awesome. Not together. Just like adjacent. Like I'm gonna shut my lights off. It's hot today. It's a
hot.
nap day. If there's ever been
is.
like a sit inside in the air conditioning, it's a nap day right now. I'll tell you.
That is correct.
Hey guys, thanks for joining us. We'll do another podcast here shortly. But
Yep.
again, if you're new, welcome to the Hasty Bake family, and we'll catch you guys soon. Appreciate you. Be good
See
to
ya.
each other.
Thanks.